All right, folks, welcome to my page. Welcome to my channel. I'm real excited about this one. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. All right. Now, I was struggling because it just didn't seem like much was on the radar for me, and I was confused about what was happening with Princess Kate and everything I was feeling about the children. I think everyone knows I'm concerned that William took out the children and Kate. So anyway, I've been feeling real down about stuff and just not feeling a lot on the radar. Um, but then these ghosts started coming to talk to me. This is Prince William in the picture here. He started visiting me, and then a couple others from the royal family. And then I realized I was getting messages to kind of hear what they had to say, that it was the ghosts that are gonna give us some insight right now. So I said, okay, I'm listening. So I'm just channeling what I feel like I heard. All right. So, and by the way, that revolution that I was mentioning before, I'm not sure if everyone caught my last videos, but they go into a lot of detail on what I think is happening. But anyway, right now, that revolution, that PG version kind of the royal family, like what you saw via the crown, like you just that's that version of the royal family. Well, that's not cutting it anymore. Like the energy of the time, it's requiring that history is like demanding more right now. All right. So as I was shaking the 8 ball, as I call it, right, I was shaking that 8 ball and nothing was coming up for me. I was, I think I said feeling frustrated. So I was asking myself, why am I seeing nothing? I'm hearing nothing, but I am feeling this war, right? There's like a war out there of all kinds of bad things people are saying against one another on this subject, like hatred, just meanness, fighting, division, confusion. And the astrologers, they talked about illusion during this time. You see like censorship, and that can lead to fascism. You just feel it like on the airwaves, right? And then these ghosts, right, they wanted to talk. And I thought, well, what would they know? What do they know, and what are they going to tell us, right? And it was a reminder to me of like, that's right. Like when we're feeling stuck, we can think about how we're like an all interconnected web, like everything is touching everything in this universe. So we got synchronicity. When that happens, it's like a magical experience. Or dreams, we will have like prophetic dreams. Deja vu, that can like remind you that you're in the right place at the right time. It can kind of bring you back to like a memory. And it, when you have deja vu, if you have it, that means you're kind of on the right path. And then if you don't have it for a while, well, I always say, like, put that car in reverse and drive back to the last place you had the deja vu. Get yourself back to that space and see if you're on the right timeline. If you kind of start from that last deja vu marker, if you will. I don't know if that makes sense to you folks. I could talk about that subject forever. So contact with ghosts, that's something that reminds us of things and can give us clues. And so it's like we're touching the past, like we're going back and dipping into the past, because every wise man knows to understand the future, we need to understand the past. Time is an interrelated circle with multiple dimensions. So just remember that. And then like time is kind of relative, right? Because it's the lifetime of a soul that really surpasses all that. But anyway, we are bouncing around and back down old hallways, even if it's lifetimes later. It's like you're going in circles and then looping back. That's kind of like time. Not sure if that makes sense to you folks. All right. So The themes right now, you guys, are revolution, right? Challenging of the institutions, AI and technology, illusion. Ask your favorite astrologer. They will tell you that these are the themes of the time. When you think about the war of the bots, it's like whoever can buy the most bots, they can influence public opinion. Because once you have public opinion swayed, you can get what you want achieved because the public will believe whoever bought the most bots. Does that make sense? And so it's like the energy of power to the little guy, right? Like this TikTok democracy, right? Fighting against the elite that control the propaganda of the news, right? But it's also a time of like the dollar could fail, like with BRICS, or crypto and gold currency is all we got, it's a time when there's going to be crypto crime, right? But there's also going to be like hacker Robin Hood, is what I call it, right? People can hack into systems. They can do all kinds of crazy stuff. They could use illusion with technology and AI to help the little people, right? There could be renegades. I call them Robin Hoods. And so people are going to be watching the news from other people. Like you see that now with TikTok. People are going to be like basing their trust on their gut, on that intuition that we talked about before. That's more of like honoring the female intelligence. Well, anyways, let's just talk about what's happening now, right? There's like clones that people are going to understand are real of real people. It's going to be crazy. There's going to be robots. Maybe there's going to be like robot wars. Anyway, last time Pluto was in Aquarius, which is what just happened recently, right? It was during the American and French Revolution. So that tells us, right, it's going to be a revolution, but probably like against powerful structures like the monarchy. Anyway, what I'm seeing is like, I'm just sensing this revolution has begun. But they, like the people, they don't even know it yet, right? But it's like all these people that are the question askers, it's like they're beautiful leaders because they're all letting each other lead. They're not like following like one guru, and it's just like they're heeding the call of the stars, right? They're doing this important work even if there's like bots all over the internet telling them they're crazy, right? Or they're unpatriotic. You got to be patriotic, you got to do what's right. So these folks are going to forge forward, but it is an army. That's what I was trying to tell folks. It's kind of like an army, but they don't even realize they are an army, which is like kind of beautiful and crazy. But yeah, reality will become confusing with AI confusion with AI deception. So it's a time when you don't know what's real. And I was saying that Army for Kate business, you could also do Army and then the number 4 and then Kate. But one thing I would like folks to do is to like start trending that. But our pledge could be we stand in alignment that all women are at risk for being victimized, and the palace has not been honest, and we are allowed to ask questions as long as they receive tax dollars. So, but there are rules, right? Rules of the army. You got to respect people's styles. You got to allow each person to express their own view. You got to share others' theories and ideas. You got to not let haters bring you down or those bots. You got to stand up for one another. You got to speak up for democracy and free speech, right? And I suggest showing solidarity by putting a picture of Kate as your profile pic on social media, right? Preferably one where she's not happy. Let's see here. And what's interesting is I've been listening and watching like who is leading this army that they don't even realize they're an army, right? And it's like cool white men, like white men that get it, that really are like smart and they care about women and they're not ashamed to get in the mix, right? And gay men, people of color, women, they're leading is what I'm seeing. There's 2 people of color that I'm following, and they just seem to be on the pulse. So it's like from housewives to conspiracy theorists. Um, It's like they're all forming an army and they don't even realize it. What a strange, odd bunch. All right. In this Orwellian nightmare, right, people are buying bots. And this is an old story, maybe from last year. I don't know. And this story was about how it was they found out there were all these fake accounts, and sometimes like one person has a real account and then there's like 20,000 fake accounts associated with that one real account of a real live person. So it's like a little bit confusing to always prove like what is a bot, but like anyway, we have entered this Orwellian nightmare. So this was an article about Harry and Meghan, like someone purchased bots from their behalf, like to promote stories, like for positive purposes or what have you. But like, who knows who did what? Who knows who did that? Um, and this is just a continuation of that same article, and it's basically just about how they are trying to manipulate things with like these accounts, right? They're cyborgs, they're part automated and they're part human. It's like that's where we're going. We're all but gonna become cyborgs, we're like a cyborg society with cyborg accounts that I don't know who's real. So if we look at this perspective, right, like there's this overarching like fascism, right? But we don't even realize it's like fascism, but like this is how fascism breaks down like right before revolution. So I'll just break it all down real quick for you. I know some of you want to get to the meat of the story, but I got to make a few points before we get there. You can always fast forward if you hate the history lesson. All right, you got the evil overlord diagram. You got William here. You got fascism kind of all over like a dark cloud. You got the press working for William. You got the bots working for William. You got censorship happening. You got controlling happening. But let's look at how they're trying to make people feel now. And so I just want to have you do like a little exercise where you really get into your body. And I want you to just recognize, right? Like certain emotions, they sit a certain place in our body, and we don't feel like good about ourselves or we don't believe in ourselves. So energies like shame, energies like pity, energies like doubt, those are lower level energies according to Hawkins' scale of consciousness, which is like a whole other thing. It's like a whole other vortex, right? We don't even need to go there, but just for reference, those are like low energy vibrations, right? So now we see like the press is going to shame us, right? The palace is going to shame us for asking questions, right? And then they're inciting pity, right? Like, don't you feel pity? Why don't you feel pity? Well, I feel like this woman's dead. Well, I mean, I feel pity. I don't know. I feel pity for her soul. I feel pity for her soul. That's why I'm doing what I'm doing, right? And then that makes us feel guilty, right? Guilty is another one that should have been highlighted. And then we feel doubt, like low energy vibrations, right? And if the bots are sent out there to like perpetuate that shame, it's kind of a form of anti-intellectualism. And we're kind of like told like we're children, like, don't be thinking, children, don't be thinking, right? So you then see people, they are turning on one another. That same division we've been seeing, like it's been seeded into our world for a while now. But like people have, they try to control one another with shame and rudeness and kicking each other out of community and like expulsion, which furthers the separation that everyone is feeling. A lot of these folks that are stuck on screens, they're deeply lonely, right? So it's like an epidemic of loneliness afoot. Anyway, that's like a whole other subject. So now we got a point where like, whoa, you can get the people like McCarthyism, right, to go after those people and say, are you asking questions? I'm going to arrest you. You're a terrorist, right? And so the thing that is important to remember is I would recommend reading some Nietzsche. I really like my Nietzsche. And what he said basically is like when discourse was censored, like when people are telling each other to shut up, right? And you're trying to control people from using their mind, speaking their mind, he said that was the precursor for fascism. Basically, when people start telling everyone else to shut up and they don't get to have an opinion and they're not respecting each other's opinion and people just say no, everyone needs to not to get along and no one needs to disagree, we don't need people disagreeing, right? And they're trying to control that. Well, then that's when fascism happens, and that's not good. So here's Noam Chomsky, and he's saying if we do not believe in freedom of speech for those we despise, we do not believe in it at all. Basically, you can't say you want a democracy and then shut down free speech, right? You don't want to go down the rabbit hole. All right, then. All right, then. I mean, rabbit holes are how stories are found, but okay. Just don't say you are supporting democracy by supporting a witch hunt. So you were lied to, right? But you trust, okay? I get it, okay? But not everyone has to trust so quick, right? So I put it this way. I think this is a really good way to think about it. It would be like a boyfriend, right? With unlimited power and money and influence, right? And he's got access to the best AI in the world. And he cheats on you, right? And he lies to you, right? He does that. And then you think, you caught him again, right? And another lie. But and he does have access to the best AI available, but he shows you some digital proof, right, of his innocence, right? So do you believe him? All right. How the evil overlord system works. And if you're like a pauper in the field, if you're a minion or a slave, you're not going to know how the evil overlord system works. I just want to break it down for you, right? You gaslight the fuck out of the people, right? And you lie, right? And you just do whatever you want, right? But the way to kind of handle like a PR crisis, right, is you see chaos. We see that happening now, don't we, boys and girls? You put out like conflicting information to create confusion and breed conflict. That's working great. I would give them an A in that department as far as the evil overlord system. You got to kill the leaks, right? Literally and figuratively, you kill those leaks. I would say, check. I told you that guy, Thomas. I don't know, man. I'm telling you, I sense murder all over this family. All right. Calling in favors. That's another one. Check. They get an A there, right? So even the big press right now is going to sign on for your top-notch AI, right? But are they fucking with you, William? Is the anxiety killing you, right? Because, like, I don't know how long they can do this for him. Like, for BBC to sign on for that video, I'm just telling you that that was a bad move. I don't know who made that call, but that was not a good call to make. And that could really be the beginning of the end. And we don't even realize that's the real story. That's the real story because it shows you that your press, right, are just not doing their job. They are not a reliable source of information. They are saying the palace isn't a reliable source of information, but the next step of this revolution is going to be when people realize, like the BBC lied for the palace and that they're not trustable. They're like North Korea. I'm giving you my prophecy. All right. And then the last stage of the evil overlord system is you act normal, right? The institution has protected thousands of murderers before you, right? So I'm going to revisit this later, but this idea of let's get it trending, Jack the Ripper 2.0, hashtag Jack the Ripper 2.0. It's not, if you dig deep into Jack the Ripper, which we were going to touch on, but just for like a moment in this reading that I'm doing, I just want you to realize like it's big. I just want you to see the vision. It's bigger than just saying Jack the Ripper was like one person, was like one member of the royalty, and like William's him again or something. It's like bigger than that. Cause like I think Jack the Ripper was actually a cover up of something else that the royal family did. Like they did kill all those people, but that we just didn't have the facts, right? So it's more about finding out the mystery behind the deaths, right? It's like a movement. Does that make sense? Anyway, that was what I was suggesting. Jack the Ripper 2.0, hashtag Jack the Ripper 2.0. Just let me know how you feel about it. All right. So astrologically, it was kind of a bad move. I know he has a temper problem and he loses control and has like mental health issues and all this other stuff. Like I got a message about all that. I'm going to get further into the reading. I'll talk about it. But I just feel bad for him, right? Because it's like bad timing to kill your wife and kill your kids. And, I know he wanted to be with Rose and have her kids be the heirs and just give her everything. But my feeling is like he has to plot right now this whole process of like trying to hide it all, but like it was an impulsive decision. It was not based in rational thinking. He lost control, right? So the hugest story right in front of all of us right now, which is just driving me bloody insane, right, is where are the fucking kids, right? Even today, there was an article out about how Kate's parents are taking care of the kids, but like no one's seen the kids, no one's had a video, no one's had a picture. Like I'll shut up about thinking the kids are dead as soon as someone will show me some video footage that's not AI that shows me the children are alive. But everything in my psychic ability is telling me she and the children are both gone. I know it's not a popular opinion. I think people start in on my videos and then they pull away as soon as they hear that I'm that saying such crazy stuff. But you have to understand, like, it's that insane if you look at the behavior of these people, right? So anyway, the time right now is like there's like a feminist revolution afoot, right? There's like a witch revolution afoot. Astrology says it's all about rebelling against systems, right? So you're going to have women coming for you. You're going to have like people that are challenging institutions coming for you, like just a real bad time to have domestic violence, have your face be all over it, that you represent the husband who did a murder, you know, like that, right? So, anyway, it's interesting though, because I feel like, and I just follow my gut feelings on this, but like, yeah, you could criticize Harry and Meghan for not, for just playing along and being like, oh, we reached out and we wished her like the best with her healing, like whatever, right? That's like a PR move to support the story or whatever. They're playing ball, they've been thrown out. They got no security. Like they're going to play ball. I mean, they don't have any control over the narrative, really, unless they just said something crazy and then they would lose everything. Right. Um, you just don't know how this is going to go with public opinion, or if public opinion on the down low, the underground, can reach the mainstream, which I think is happening. I want to believe it's happening. But when I see what's going to break, like BBC and the public's trust in the BBC, and then like all media being untrustworthy, well, then it's like straight up revolution. We are like 2 steps from revolution. All right. So Harry and Meghan have not had a way to help out with trying to get the message through that they think something is wrong. right? So their hands are tied and they can't say much, right? They have to play ball. They're scared. These are like murderers, right? But over here, they have this friend, right? And this is like one of those people I like to point out and say, oh, they're a hero, right? They're a hero. So this guy, Christopher Boozy, he is a hero, right? Because he was calling out all the videos and whatnot, saying, wow, this is like some North Korea Trumpian type of propaganda, right? Which is true, right? This is like World War II before the Nazis like really started dragging the Jews to the camps, right? When the propaganda like really started to pick up, right? So this is what you want. You want people who are thinking, right? Who are saying, hey, we're slipping into fascism. Like, whoa, why would the media allow these stories to run? Right? Why is the press not doing their job? Right? So this is your activist citizen who is calling for truth, right? But they're going to degrade him, right? They called it a tirade, like he's a child or he's like a woman that can't control herself. Like even the language used to describe this man is riddled with things that I would call dismissive. Oh, right. We're going to get to my favorite part, the part where I really was just channeling, even as I was putting this together. Like originally, Princess Margaret wasn't even part of this, and all of a sudden she started coming through, and I was like, whoa. And to be honest, I mean, I forgive you if you leave during this part because I just got confused with all the messages, and I'm not even sure I got it all right. I'll just dig in, right? Okay. First, let's start with Prince William. I just don't want to start crying. He was murdered. He was a young man, and he was like fifth in line for the throne, I think, when Queen Elizabeth got married. So before she had Charles, or maybe even after she had Charles. Anyway, he was like up there in the top six for quite a while. And there's like kind of this written agreement that like the people that are in the top 10 who are in line for the throne, like they just have to like mind their P's and Q's and do what they're told, like because a travesty could occur, like those Russians that were killed. I forget the spacing on the name. But anyway, like when that whole family was murdered in Russia that were royalty, that were the relatives of King George. Anyway, I don't know if oh man, I just hate that name. Just does not come off my tongue. Anyway, I'm getting emotional. Prince William was murdered. Right. So he was in line for the throne. I would encourage you guys to go and watch a video. There is a video on him and his girlfriend, and it is the saddest video I think I've seen in a long, long time. I just for those of you who care about broken hearts in this world and know how sad it is to lose someone you love, you'll know heartbreak when you see it when you watch that video, right? So he was in line for the throne. And just so you know, like behind the scenes, and I know I've spoken about Prince Philip being a dangerous character, but he was like the most as far as like pushing folks to stay in line, that they could not marry divorcees. They had to maintain their responsibility to marry within the pool of the crown as far as like genetics and stuff. So could have been that Nazi influence, I don't know, but like he didn't want people mixing. And I think he helped control all that, right? I do sense from the ghosts, that they've told me that he's murdered and that he's murdered more than once, right? Which is the definition of a serial killer, even if you're the one ordering the hit. And Prince William was also murdered. And what he told me was that it was Prince Philip who did it. So I'm just channeling what he told me. So this was 1972 that he died. He died in a plane crash. And if you watch the footage, it's like he had over 700 hours in flight time, and this plane like couldn't even get off the ground, and like seemed like there was a weight on the pedal because it ran straight into a tree. um it's not like any forensic expert was ever going to look that over. Like they just assumed it was just like an accident or something. I don't know. I don't look for pragmatic understanding of things. When someone tells me they are murdered, right, I say, okay, you're a murdered soul. Like, I'm sorry, right? So, anyway, and the thing about it in the timing, right, was that several times he had asked permission and was denied, and Philip was very stern with him about it. The girlfriend talked about how Philip was like adamantly against the union, and he had asked for permission to marry the twice divorced older girlfriend. Um, but after what happened with the abdication, like women that were pulling men away from the family, they were considered a threat. And so they weren't going to have that another scandal on their hands after the abdication nonsense. So, oh, look at that. I misspelled briefly, but the two of them briefly split, but then at the very end of his life, he asked her to be there for that ride. Whether he asked her to be in the plane or asked her to just come and watch him fly, and she wasn't able to go. But at the same time, like you never know if she got threatened to stay away from him or what have you. You just don't know. So his tragic life from forbidden love. So he was denied this forbidden love. When you deny love in this world, there's like a certain place like in hell. I'm Jewish and I don't necessarily believe in hell, but like karmic hell, I suppose. Like that for forbidding two people who love each other to express that love is one of the greatest crimes in humanity as far as like dharmically and karmically. So when you do that to someone, that's real bad. I don't think Prince Philip worried much about his karma and dharma. I don't know. The man seems like pure evil. If I believed in the devil, I would say he was it. Yeah, so he died, and there he is, very sweet soul that came to talk to me, very sweet soul, very good man. The video, like I said, was incredible. And so her name was like Zuzi. And she had dated Sean Connery for a minute, but she loved this man, right? They lived in Japan together. So this was the energy of true love, which has a purity like no other, like a mother for her child, right? True love is something that that energetic frequency is just like basically true, like way up there, close to Hashem, right? And the themes also are like pressure to marry within your class, living your own life. So what I was being reminded about was that there is like this Nazi connection, right? And I know folks are like, yeah, we know about the Nazi connection, but the ghost wanted me to revisit the Nazi connection. So I'm like, okay, they just took me down this road, right? So at one point, Queen Elizabeth is aligned with the Nazis, right? She's like 5 or 6 years old or something, and she's doing a salute, right? The Nazi salute, right? But that's where the family was at in terms of sympathies with like the Nazis. And so it's not just Prince Philip's family, um it's also Queen Elizabeth's family. And then three of his sisters, Prince Philip's sisters, married Nazis, right? So all of her sister-in-laws except one, um, all of them were married to Nazis, right? I don't know. Hold on one second. Okay, and then the Nazi is going to tell you, right, that they are no longer a Nazi, right? But does that make them suddenly not a Nazi, right? Like, I don't know, like it's crazy when people are like, well, they're not Nazis, but I'm not sure a Nazi ever stops being a Nazi. Well, I know folks are going to have a hard time with this one. Let's just start with the most controversial thing I'm saying on this page. If you research the skull of Hitler, right, his skull was supposedly taken by the Russians, right? And then they finally got to test that skull, I think within the last 5 years or so. Well, that skull was considered to not be Hitler, right? So now we know that was not Hitler, right? And then a lot of folks say there was like a exit, like you would always have a trap door, a secret door, a secret passage, right? And so supposedly he got out to Argentina, and there's like a lot of folks that say, well, why did all of his like top commanders get away? And then there's like people in Argentina that are like, we saw a huge barge with a bunch of Germans, like right before like news hit that they had captured him. So like kind of like the boat got away. And then there's like a huge Nazi presence down there in that area. So if you just have an open mind, go ahead and research like Skull, Russia, Hitler, secret exit, and then that, like the barge and stuff, the barge that people reported, and the Nazi communities down there. But that's kind of like a separate issue. So they talk like he abdicated because of like the Nazi concerns about King Edward, right? King Edward had abdicated the throne right before Queen Elizabeth, who wasn't like in the line of direct descent. And so this was considered the greatest, like, you know, uh, black mark on their family, right? But it wasn't because he left because he was associated with the Nazis, right? It was all because he insisted on this woman, right? And so that's why Prince Philip was convinced like the monarchy almost fell, right, over a foolish man who was seduced and easily manipulated by this woman that everyone says was a spy for Hitler, right? So um I think how that left things was like there would be no men that would leave the family that would be causing shame to the family by trying to get with a divorcee. Like never again would that shame come, nor would they then abdicate and leave their royal duties to then marry, which is probably what Prince William was going to do. That's what he's been telling me. So he was ready to leave his royal duties and abdicate to marry his girlfriend, and he may have told Prince Philip, and then Prince Philip had him killed. So this is something about how Princess Cecile, who was Prince Philip's sister, right? She had talked about how Adolf Hitler that he was a charming and seemingly modest man, right? But she and her husband, right? This is Philip's sister and her husband were open members of the Nazi Party, right? So Prince Philip was even photographed in between two men who were wearing Nazi attire at Cecile's funeral. And if you follow Prince Philip, like really dig deep, he would make like racist comments all the time. And people would like pass it off as like, oh, he's just a bumbling oaf, like a grandpa, right? But he was just like straight up racist. And then Princess Cecily was Prince Philip's third oldest sister, right? And so this was interesting. I didn't even know why this was important, but the ghost, I guess it was Prince William. I don't know. They were telling me that this lady was killed, right? And I'm like, okay. And then I started researching it and I was like, well, why are you saying she was killed? Because it looks like from the report, right? The report was they're flying somewhere and then they have to go somewhere else because she's in labor, right? She was in labor and then they crashed as they were diverting to this other city because she was in labor on the fly, right? Like they diverted to Sweden or something. I don't know. Something, right? But that what Prince William told me was no, no, no. They were all murdered. So don't trust the official story. And then I asked him, like, no offense, but like, why is that even important? Like, why is it important to know that they covered it up, but that was a murder of this family by someone, right? And he said to me, because you need to see how ruthless this class of people is to each other, to anyone really. Like, like that's how much these people are taking each other down and stuff like that. This was another thing that came through and I did not even understand like why it's so important, and I was just struggling because I was like, okay, I'm just getting bombarded with random information, people I never heard about, don't care about, why do they matter, right? There was this controversial duke, right? Who, can you see that? Who was a bisexual drug taker, so let's just call him gay, right? And this woman had this secret, right? Supposedly. And what I got about her is that the Duke of Kent, who was the Queen's uncle, and I don't know if I don't know if Philip would have been involved with this death, because this death, I don't know, Philip might have been quite young, but it may have been Philip's father, like someone older who I mean, I don't even know who assassinated gay family members back in the day when it wasn't Philip. You know what I mean? Like there's always been that role. Does that make sense? I think that was like the message. It's like there's always been someone in the family to take care of business, right? So this gentleman was supposedly keeping this secret or whatever, but that the Duke was on the aircraft, right? Which they blamed on him, which I just felt like they did to discredit him because they murdered him, and then just for spite they pinned it on him or something. I don't know. I don't get the sense that I get the sense he was murdered, right? That's what I'm channeling. But in 1942, I don't know I don't know if Philip would have had him killed that young if he had stepped into the role of the family killer, if you will. The Jack the Ripper as a collective, if you will, from like the Royals, right? I don't know if he had stepped into that role yet, but as of right now, what I'm reading is that the Duke was was trashed in the news, and that he was being represented as trying to take on flying the plane even though he shouldn't have, and that it was his fault that he died, and it's only coming out later that his boyfriend was on board. It could have been the married royal's boyfriend, right? So this is like another thing that's coming up, right? Is that the revolution, I thought it was like for women, or I thought it was like for domestic violence victims, or I thought it was for like people who are told that they don't matter and then they're finding out information and sharing it. So they're like rising up to challenge the propaganda. And I thought it was all that, right? But I didn't realize that there's some gay rights stuff going on, right? Because if this ghost is coming through and he's saying they killed me too, include my name in the list. All right, there, we will. We will. So we need to add, what is his name? The Duke of Kent. We need to make a list, and the Duke of Kent was off because he was a bisexual drug taker. And it sounds like he wanted to live his life and be happy. And in 19 what 42, that was not a good idea. So another gay person that is potentially coming up is Rose's husband, right? Rose Hanbury, that she basically married this man for appearances and for him to have biological children with their twins, but like everyone pretty much seems to be saying in the underground that he's a big old gay and living with his gay who stole a. That's another thing that's coming up is people coming for their shit. Like Rose, I think, is getting punked over the fact that in her big pictures, she's always parading around looking like a goddess, but she's doing it in front of all these stolen Asian artifacts. That's stirring up a lot of shit right now. And those Asian folks, that those videos are blowing up and they're asking for their shit back. So again, that's another theme of this revolution, right? Anyway, but you see the fact that these gays, they can come out of the closet now, right? They don't need to do their fake marriages. Like the British upper class need to respect and celebrate their gay family members. And that's another theme that's coming out, right? Like these ghosts are standing up and they're saying a lot of this comes from lies that are kept up to keep public opinion like happy or whatever. So the take home message for me was if you have gay affairs or you act like you'll marry a divorcee and you're going to bring shame to the family, we will kill you, right? And I said this before, Harry represents, right, the energy of the new wave of masculinity. Like he's gone and done like plant medicine, like spiritually to heal himself, like with a shaman, right? And he's coming back to the family and he's like, let's heal, right? Let's heal, assholes. Like, let's stop being assholes. Let's talk about our feelings and like the way we treat women and like stop killing people and controlling the press. And the palace says, fuck you. All right. I have no idea why this was coming up, but there was like something else that was going on here, and I don't know even know why it's relevant, but I just channel. So we were just talking about the Duke of Kent, right? The one that was gay bisexual, right? And he was the Queen's uncle, right? And then that dude had a cousin, right? A cousin who was like this dude. So this dude is Charles Edward, a different guy than Duke of Kent. The Duke of Kent is the Queen's uncle, and this guy is his cousin, and his name is Charles Edward. And Charles Edward was really close with Hitler and had learned German quite well. Oh no, that's someone else. All right. So this guy is just basically showing you there's a lot of family involvement, and this is the Queen's side. This is not necessarily just Philip's side. This is the Queen's cousin basically hanging with Hitler on his team. Just something to think about. Okay. But what's interesting is the Duke of Kent, he is also overseeing the basically like James Bond, right? He's basically overseeing James Bond, who was able to penetrate the Nazi hierarchy, right? So Philip could have also killed him off because he was basically spying on the Nazis. So I just get the feeling that the Duke of Kent wanted his name cleared, that he was not the person who crashed the plane. He was killed because he was gay, but he was also killed because he was spying on the Nazis with his spies that uh, he was in charge of, right? But the people in the family didn't like it. I think Philip, I don't know, but someone didn't like that he was part of the resistance against the Nazis, and they killed him. So like, let's just dig into this just a little bit more, and then we'll get into the other part about Princess Kate and the children. So I've mentioned before that the people, like when Kate said in an interview that she said William would kill me if I had another kid, excuse me, these are people who have very scripted answers for events. They are not allowed to freestyle. They do not have the freedom of being able to speak their minds because they've got people over them. They've got handlers over them. They've got people threatening them from behind, like holding a gun to their back. You just don't know what their lives are like. So, because there's such a culture of secrecy and so forth, you need to look carefully at the words that people use to express themselves. So, when Princess Kate made that comment where she said, "I, Phil, William would kill me if I did," about having another kid, she's saying this man is capable of murder, right? So when Paul Burrell says the Queen let Prince Philip get away with murder, I'm hearing she let him get away with murder, right? And here's another thing that came from like a tipster or whatever, an insider. We cannot imagine the Princess Diana fiasco, which like threatened to topple the monarchy. We cannot imagine that. Like from the perspective of having like a proper media that did its job as opposed to like a giant cover up. So just do your research on that. But like the interviews with Princess Diana, where she said they're planning, a car accident. I mean, it's very sad that she told us what was going to happen to her and we failed her, right? So Prince William validated for me that Princess Diana was killed by Prince Philip, and Princess Diana told me that, right? So I just want you to realize like how intense it would be to be raised without your mother with this father that is a very traumatized person himself. Like everyone thinks he's kind of a pussy, right, Charles? Kind of a naturopathic pussy, right? And he's like sitting this one out with his cancer diagnosis, like who knows, right? He's just sitting this one out. But if you look at the research, right, Philip was horrible to Charles and like sent him to school to be bullied, like almost like trying to get him to be tough. So he ridiculed him. He basically incited maybe others to like be very tough on him. And this was a child that was like chronically beaten at that school that Philip sent him to. Philip then demanded, right, that William could take over for being like the alpha father, like that he couldn't be the alpha lead. So Charles like was never part of that equation. It's like Prince Philip was training Prince William to take on those abusive tactics, right, of controlling the monarchy with the concept that you're doing the right thing, right? But just what a mind fuck that would be, right? If your mom's out of the picture and your father's kind of like a beat up softy who can't really make himself emotionally available for anyone, right? Except for Camilla. And then you've got your grandfather who is basically kind of teaching you ethics and morals. Another thing about Prince Philip was that Princess Margaret came through as I was doing this, and I did some research, and there was a movie that was coming out that was really digging into the fact that Princess Margaret, what she came through and told me was that it was Philip who really stood in the way of her getting her money, and it was like he was the one who was the heavy who said you'll be cut out and get nothing if she went with her the man that she wanted to be with, right? The man who was a divorcee. And then because she says that Philip kept her from that man, and that's what the movie seems to be implying, is that it really was like Philip being a ruthless bully. And you have to remember, they have to downsize every word they use. When they say Prince William has a temper, they're saying this is a DV mentally ill hothead, right? But they can't say that, right? So they have to like temper everything because they're like slaves to the crown. So when they say Philip is a ruthless bully, I'm saying he's like mercenary. That's what I'm saying. Serial killer. So the things that were coming through for me is that Diana, I had watched a psychic and she was like spot on. I'm sorry if I can't remember her name. She was talking about how Princess Diana was worried about Prince William the most because she said that he'll have to live with what he's done the rest of his life, and she has pity for his soul, and she says everyone else's soul is at peace or has crossed to the other side, or it's, you're in that like period where, for like a year or so you could be like in soul school, like uh um Rudolf Steiner talks about, like, anyways, like a non-issue, right? So Princess Diana, according to this psychic, is the most worried about William, and that resonated with me of like, yeah, she would be the most worried about him, even though he's done this atrocious thing, right? And so I felt like she was coming through to say, listen, you try coming up in this family and being brainwashed, right, into thinking that somehow like killing your own mother was necessary, right? Like somehow controlling Diana, who was out of control, somehow that got conveyed in a way like that was necessary. Like just take that on for 1 minute if there's a bit of truth to that. If you have Philip on the side telling you, hey, buddy, you got to do some dirty work in this family to keep these fuckers on track, and someone has to do it, your father can't do it, then he would convince him that like someone needs to carry on that dirty job of like maintaining the monarchy and tapping out the trouble. I like to give people homework. The homework I'm giving with this is I need you to put out there like, where are the kids? Find the kids. Tell the people talking, like, look for the children. Find me any photos, find me any pictures, right? Any video that's not AI. I'm not seeing anything out there. I think this is like glaringly obvious, and this is one of those moments where like the Cassandra complex, like people who have the Cassandra complex, like you can feel or read the future, but then like no one believes you. But then like when they finally find out the truth, they blame you like you created it, and you're like, I was trying to warn y'all, you crazy fucks, right? So it's hard to live with the Cassandra complex. And like right now, I'm like, why is no one talking about the children? Why is nobody talking about the children? No one has seen the children since December, and they are trusting a man who put out media that faked his wife and children. Like, it's crazy. And yet no one is asking about the children. No one's doing a story on the children. There has got to be someone brave enough to really dig deep into like, where are the children, who has a national stage or international stage. I'm begging you, please go look for those kids. Oh my God, this is just such a shit show and so horrible and so sad, but also like a pivotal moment when our society changes. And like, I don't know, man, it's pretty intense. So I'm just going to run through real quick. What are the things that stand out, right? They're saying that the AI that was able to take information from an old photo shoot she did like 7 years ago, and they have a very similar background, very similar like bench and setting and so forth. So they fed that to the AI. AI is like, I don't know, like a massive computer. And then what it does is it perfects with another massive AI computer an image of someone, but you keep feeding it information, right? Like, make it a sunny day. We're gonna feed it pictures of a person in the sun. Make it a day when they're a little bit sick, when they had a cold, so they look a little sickly. Then I'm gonna subtract 10 pounds for being like, really thin. Like it's like it's a tech like magical creation, right? So right now, the media is supporting this bogus high-tech AI for now. Um, and I don't even know what to say about that. I get into it at the end of my video. It's super crazy, but I think this is like the last pillar of our society. It's just going to bend and it's just going to break, right? They were saying there was no movement in the backgrounds. They were using a video compared of Kate, this one with Megan, and the background was moving with Megan, and there's no background movement here, like no flowers moving, no leaves moving. People also said it wasn't flowery like this in England right now. So they're saying it's a green screen background. That's another issue. You should go ahead and Google the hair. There's like one hair on her head that it's almost like they want to make it wind. And so they have a piece of hair that does like a freaky thing. Just it doesn't act like a hair would act in the wind. It acts like it just acts kind of freaky and crazy, like it's controlled by a computer. Then there's this great lady. She's a fashion designer. I'm spacing on her name, but also a photographer. And she said that the nasofabial folds are not moving where they should, like on her face, like it's glitching or it's not like you're not even seeing the nasolabial folds. I think it's labial. Nasolabial folds, you're not even seeing those like moving where they should be moving, like at an angle from like the bottom of your nostril. And then there was like something about how like the nostril like was flaring disproportionately on one side, which was like considered like an AI glitch or something. This other gentleman has been showcasing that the right eye pops out just a little bit. If you put it into slow motion, you look at the eye and zoom in, the right eye kind of pops out in this like scary way that makes it look like a monster, but it's just AI. This other dude, he was saying that if you look at the eyelids when her eyes are shut, there is like AI dots flickering. They're very subtle, but they're like blue, like little tiny dots like flickering. But you have to zoom in and put it in slow motion and watch the eyelids. This hairstyle also, like if you look at recent hairstyles, this hairstyle, according to this one lady, was like 7 years ago, and she was parting her hair in a different place. Like it just wasn't the hair she's had recently. Um, and then you have this weird strap thing. If you look at the uniformness of the shoulders, the length from the top strap to the very tip of that shoulder sleeve, you'll see that the one on the right has a really large gap where that big green arrow is. And then over on the left, you've got like a littler gap between um, that last strap and the shoulder. Like she's gonna have nice clothes. Her clothes aren't gonna be like knockoffs, you know, that like so that's just not normal. And then she's got these broad shoulders. If you look at her shoulders and her head in her other real photos is bigger and she has smaller slider shoulders. She does wear shoulder pads sometimes, and what some people were saying is that the AI got confused with the shoulder pad photos that they fed it, and so they gave her these really big shoulders. Her shoulders are not normally like that. I joked and said, I'm a football player now, right? And the ring disappears on the hands at times. It was really pitiful to see these people telling folks like, oh no, it's just moving fast, like things blur like that. Like things don't, a ring does not disappear. That's just crazy. And then also like the slats of the bench, like they don't match. If you look at both, even if it's at an angle, the slats or the bench are different, right? So it's probably only a matter of time till someone breaks this story and it's like a legit newspaper. Like I totally get it. Just have patience, little one, is what I tell myself, right? But I feel like this is a distraction and I'm upset, right? where are the kids? I'm thinking, where are the kids, guys? They haven't been seen since Christmas. Like, why are you following for all this trickery and all this fuckery? Like, come on now, right? But I get it. Like, if I truly believe the children are dead, right, and that's my sense, and that she's dead, what, like, I don't know that they would find any evidence at this point, like physical evidence, because it's probably been destroyed, right? So I don't sense that there's like a body to find, right? I feel like that's been discarded or disposed of. And I don't know if he's going to try to have like a car accident or something to take out the whole family. He just needs to get some space from this, like have people have a believable sighting of her that the media is willing to support and stand behind him on, even if he has to call in every last favor he can. And then in every last threat, because he is Prince Philip's grandson, I don't know. I just think he's gonna kill them all in like a car crash or something. But they're already dead, but you know what I mean, right? So you do see people like starting to wake up and saying like putting this information out there, right? So this is like hopeful me, right? That even though I think he's gone nuts and now he's trying to convince the world it was like an Iran, Russia, China hoax that was trying to split up the nation, which is like total madness, right? But I mean, how long can he keep this up? And someone is saying on this thread, like that a newspaper published, like someone is asking about the royal family, like, where is Kate Middleton? And I said, dead. You are wasting precious time. Her kids are dead too, dummy. And that's just me. Like, I think everyone, like, you need to express yourself, but um, I don't want to talk like directly to someone like that. But I don't mind talking to people like generally like that, like you're all dumb, like do something about it, you're wasting precious time, right? But I don't want to be that annoyed and testy. But sometimes when we are annoyed and testy, we express our frustration and then people get motivated because they're like, wow, she's really angry. So you, as you can see, like people are starting to ask questions. I'm just feeling like this is revolutionary. And then I did this little thing. It's kind of funny, right? It's like I was just grabbing headlines. Like you just see that March 26th, people are starting to like ask questions like, is Kate Middleton's cancer reveal video AI generated? Like it's only so long before the big stories are going to cover this, but then the BBC is going to have pie on their face and maybe they'll say one of their producers lied to them, right? But then we would have a name and we would say to them, why did you sign on for this story? And maybe they would say, the palace gave it to us and we just accepted the story and we didn't challenge it even though we were supposed to be, like I can see how that would go. So one thing I wanted to point out is like YouTube seems to be censoring this story. Like I'll do a search for a few keywords, right? And I'll get like 2 videos and I'm like, that's crazy. There has got to be more videos, but it seems like they are pushing like, feel for Kate and hate on people who ask questions and like just smile and be stupid and wish her good well and wish her well, like just like some cheesy ass videos that seem like they're bot created or what have you. So even X, this is where I am angry, and I would love to have a piece of Elon Musk to talk to, right? Because he's someone that I think highly of, and I would like to talk to him, right? Because, dear Elon, why did you sell out too, right? Because he puts this disclaimer on the AI critique of the cancer video. For me, that is, he is allowing censorship by putting that up. Some of the best AI techs out there are calling the video an AI newest edition, 7.0, the best of the best, right? And here's Elon going, oh, this might not be truth. Like, how dare you, right? How dare you sell out? He was like someone I admired, right? And then TikTok has been good, right? Even if it's China spying on us or whatever, like for whatever reason, it's like we got a TikTok democracy because they're not shutting us up, right? I mean, you could say they just want division, but like they're letting people talk and no one else is really letting people talk. CNN is not good. Daily Mail is not good. Those are all owned. TMZ is owned by the Royals. BBC is owned by the Royals. Mir, ABC News, Fox, Newsmax. They are all currently running with William Story, right? But I'm thinking it has to break sometime. This was huge, actually. I want you to take a minute and think about this. The Japan Times, right? Who normally doesn't like, they're not gonna be risky too much, right? They came out with this, I think it was today, about the how the wild theories are persistent, right? So the fact that they are even dropping information about this, they're pointing somewhere, they are pointing at the controversy, even if they are not commenting on the controversy, they are pointing an arrow to the controversy. They're subtle, they're not going to lead you there. The breadcrumbs have been dropped, go find the dirt, right? And then we got this, we're seeing how obvious the AI deepfakes can be. Like this employee in this BuzzFeed article, like was completely convinced that their coworkers were all present on the Zoom, but they were all AI generated deepfakes, right? So now the world has to wrap its brain around, like, wow, the world is having to quickly catch up, like evolve, like, oh my God, a digital world where they can create anything, you don't know it's real. Whoa. So if we could just take a moment here, this is like dangerous, right? So we got here, like, this is so hard to explain, but it's really quite simple. It's like a pie chart, but I didn't do it perfect. I couldn't find what I wanted. Anyway, let's just move on. So people are interested, right, in the Cape Middleton thing. The numbers are huge. People are interested. They are bored with the news that's out there. They want to know. They are so drawn in, right? So about 30% of the people in the CakeGate stuff are people that were already all about deep fake situations where they're like, well, this is deep fake and that is deep fake. And they are the people you would call the conspiracy theorists, right? So they're always thinking something is faked, like the moon landing or 9/11, or they're already there, right? So that's like 30% of the population for the Cape Middleton, CakeGate, right? But now you got like housewives, right? The View, normal folk, people who watch The View, liberals, right? Who always scoff at conspiracy people, right? So then you got about 45% of them, and they're like, whoa, what are we doing over here with these conspiracy people in the same neighborhood? They're like, whoa. Then people don't understand. We got bots, man. We got bots probably on either side, but I'm assuming bots primarily to suppress the information and peddle that she's fine. William is a great, great guy, right? Not psycho at all. And to squash conversation and to shame people, I would just follow some of those accounts. I would have someone do research on those accounts, right? But those bots are out there to hate on people who are leading the revolution, if you will, right? And then there's two people that I've been following a lot, right? Tissa Tills and Murad Murali. Now, I could give my little 2 cents on both of them in terms of like some constructive criticism, because obviously I think the world of them, right? But there's just a couple areas where I would give some feedback. But I don't know that either one wants my feedback. But Madam Mitzpah at gmail.com, either one of you, I'll give you some free feedback. You just let me know. Um, so those folks are leading the revolution, right? Because they're pushing things in a normal way so that the housewives, the people that like are like liberals or whatever, right? They're slowly grasping the gravity of things, but like in a way that is comprehensible and not too scary, not too quick, not too much, not too fast, right? Because they can only digest a certain amount of having like their narrative collapse, right? And the conspiracy theorists have totally given up on like any narrative, right? They're like in flat earth land. So the housewives and normal folk and stuff like that, they don't want to fall into that flat earth reality, right? Like living in a matrix. Like they don't want to just start believing in all of that. But Murad Morali and Tissa Tells, they do, those people on YouTube, they bring people step by step down the path of looking, but at a pace that doesn't scare them, right? That doesn't scare them, and they don't feel like they're losing their wits by jumping into like flat earth land. So they just want to be like guided as they go down the Cape Trail. And these two are doing a great job. Like I said, I do have some feedback. I think, a lot of it revolves around not covering the children as far as that story, just out there, and it would, once we find out the kids are missing, like that would just change everything, right? Like we would know if the kids are missing, someone needs to go and check for bodies, right? Anyway, all right. And the last part of what's happening is that, people need to be careful, right? Because if you are pulling all these people together, right, and bridging differences, like you could be considered a threat to the system, right? So just, be aware, like the system does not want these people working together. It doesn't want the housewives, the normal folk, people who watch The View, the liberals who scoff at conspiracy people, right? Working with those conspiracy theorists, right? Like that's a fairly big percentage of the population, right? In this whole Kate Middleton revolution, right? But now, because of that most recent AI video, what are you going to do when you've got AI experts and tech wizards? They're now being drawn in. They are very interested in this story. They are giving their personal opinion, their professional opinion, and not getting paid. They're just like getting sucked into the movement, and they're dissecting the videos, right? And there's only so long that the media can say, oh, those people don't know what they're talking about, when it's like a famous AI expert, right? So the minute an AI expert covers it of a certain degree, I think the news is going to have to cover that. And that's going to be probably like the breaking story, right? But my point is, now that the AI experts and tech wizards are jumping on the bandwagon and tearing apart that video, it's not just the conspiracy theorists, right? It's not just like the normal folk that watch The View, right? Or the Tissa Tells, Murad Morali, like the people often like of color who are like, or like gay people, they'll just be like on top of like the pulse, right? They just like, they got that in touch with like art and culture and like where culture's going, like the vibe, right? So that's a lot, right? But then you've got the AI experts and tech wizards that are like the white boys, or like the pragmatists, or like the scientists. And if they are coming in, whoa, like it's gonna be big. They're joining this revolution. That's what I'm saying. So I kept getting this message about like you need to look up like Jack the Ripper, like Prince William is probably Jack the Ripper. He's like been killing for years. Prince Philip taught him to kill. These people like do it anyway. They do it to each other. It's crazy. They're animals, right? I don't think it's that Jack the Ripper is Jack the Ripper like we think it is. I think Jack the Ripper was people that knew about, if you look into it, supposedly Prince Albert, who was Queen Victoria's grandson, supposedly he was gay. And if you look it up, he, like some folks say that his killing, killing sprees for 5 years were people covering up his being gay. So again, this story of like potentially another gay person, and death kind of associate with that in terms of like trying to cover that up, and just like how people are controlled and how people don't want to be like controlled like that anymore. Like we need to fight the Jack the Ripper, which they think is like that um that it's not Jack the Ripper the way we've been taught. It was actually the monarchy that was killing folks, not necessarily Prince Albert. And again, it was the poor. They were taking out the poor. Um, so this is very fascinating for me. I want you to just think about this for a minute and stick with me, right? So Kim Kardashian, right? And you know she's close with Meghan and Harry. There's like talk of like them going into business together and stuff like that. So Kim knows what's going on, right? She's connected, she has money, and she's connected to Harry and Meghan. So recently, Diddy was having all these problems. I'm not sure if anyone follows that narrative and all that drama, that kind of stuff. So if you look where I circled it there, Tissa Tells talks about how Kim Kardashian, she unfollowed Diddy 24 hours before a raid by federal agents at his house. So somehow she got word that Diddy was going down and she unfollowed him, which is like in Hollywood, you don't want to unfollow someone who has power, but you want to unfollow someone like right before they lose power to show that you're like the coolest of the cool because you knew it before everyone else, right? Well, the thing about this is that the internet has been blowing up, right? Because they're all angry that Kim Kardashian, right? Not like Blake Lively. And I take issue with Blake Lively being just like, acquiescing right away, like a little good white girl, instead of like standing up for herself and being able to have an opinion. I want to see some saucy white girls out there. I feel like sometimes black women get to be queens, but like I just want white girls to have like some good sisterhood and show some good sass, just like black women, just like Latina women, that kind of stuff. So anyway, I was mad at Blake Lively, not that I'm a fan, but I was mad that she walked that back, right? But Kim Kardashian did not. Kim Kardashian did not. She did not walk that back. She refuses to walk it back. Like people are putting pressure on her, like apologize to Kate. You better apologize now. I want to do a skit for Saturday Night Live where I've got a gun on someone and I'm like, apologize for saying such bad things. Apologize now. And like a horde of women come with guns to kill someone for saying something was happening. And you're like, whoa, these people are a cult, right? They're a cult because they cannot accept the truth. So I feel like it's a PR move. I feel like she knows something. She's not groveling like the rest. I think she knows that it's going to blow up, and that's AI. This bitch has so much money, right? She knows what kind of AI is out there, right? Speaking of AI, okay. Well, we'll come back to that. I know you guys don't agree with me. I haven't had anyone agree with me so far, but I'm not here to have people agree with me. Everyone knows about that Nostradamus prediction for 2024, right? And it's the King of the Isles will be driven out by force, right? So if King Charles dies and Prince William becomes the king this year, right? He would be driven out by force, right? But replaced by one who will have no mark of the king, right? So no mark of the king, right? Like means it's someone that doesn't have a tie to the king. It means someone who has no indication of being the king right now, someone who never would have thought to ever be the king ever, even under like any remote possibility. So no people, not Harry, right? So this guy says it's the oust that king because they disapproved of his divorce. Well, people are over Charles' divorce. They don't really care anymore that he got divorced, right? And they public opinion has been, swung, maybe because they put out so many articles on how nice Camilla is and how she's not a breaker upper of marriages, right? But what populace isn't going to approve of a divorce? I would say that tells me that William is going to plan for Kate to get a divorce from him, that she initiates, and maybe he throws out one more AI robot thing, whatever that thing is, AI, whatever, and has her say, I'm going to struggle with my cancer alone as a single woman, and we're getting divorced, and like leave us be, right? And so if he can fool people into thinking that she didn't die and she's still alive and she wants to get a divorce, right? What I hear Nostradamus saying from the grave is like they are going to disapprove of this divorce, even if he tries to make it look like it's her idea or it's totally fine or whatever, right? Because they are going to consider him unworthy. So what makes someone unworthy in the public's eye? When you find out that they killed their wife, when you find out that they beat their wife, when you find out that they killed their kids, when you don't trust the story, right? If the wife and kids never show up again and he says they got divorced and then a car crash happened and the children got killed or something, the public won't consider him worthy anymore, right? They won't consider him worthy anymore because he will have lost their trust. He is losing their trust now. So the people are going to force him out. They'll probably force William out. Maybe it's 6 months, maybe it's a year, right? But the man who is going to replace him is one who never expected to be king. Never expected to be king. So my money is on that guy, Simon, because I don't think Harry is the son of Charles, and I don't think they want to push that narrative. And I think Camilla always has something in her back pocket. I think she would be fine with this Simon taking on, even if he seems like he's like a wacky guy who doesn't have the training like she would have given him. But I imagine she thinks there isn't anything worse than William, who's off doing God knows what, and who knows who he might kill next. Here are the questions I want you to ask yourself with the cancer narrative. Why did Kate's family not visit her during her hospital stay? She's in the hospital. Her husband only visits her once. Her family, her friends, her her workers say they don't know about her lead people, right? The lead people, she's got hundreds of people on her staff. Her lead people don't know that she's going in for this surgery, right? No one goes to visit her, right? What's going on, right? Doesn't that seem scary? Why did William, look this up, did not even issue a happy birthday to his wife on her birthday? I think that is highly significant. I think they were distracted and didn't know how he was going to play it, if he was going to come out of the closet about what was really happening. And so they missed putting that out because maybe they thought he was going to come clean for a minute and they missed it. And by the time they got to it, it looked awkward to do it afterwards. So they just let it go. Very telling. Your wife has cancer. You don't wish her a happy birthday on your public social media while she's battling cancer. Like, none of that makes sense, people. 4 times they told us that she didn't have cancer, and now all of a sudden she's got cancer. A public figure, all the PR specialists have told us, do not hide a cancer diagnosis for months and months and months. Why did the palace sign on to different versions of Kate, including fake Kates, right? Currently, why is the press dragging Prince Harry into the Diddy drama? There's like a photograph circulating of Harry at a party with Diddy, right? Like one of his like wild and crazy parties. Supposedly he's accused of sex trafficking. Guess what, guys? A lot of these people are sex traffickers. A lot of these people have parties with underage people. This is like something that they just hide from you, right? But anyway, at this party, William and Harry are in the picture with Diddy, but the media has cut out William, so they're just dragging Harry. Ask yourself why. I think the message I get is William and his goons are putting out some negative stuff on Harry to keep him in line, but also remind him of their power in case his friends get out of line, like Kim Kardashian or that other guy, right? But also it's to make William sound better, right? Anything to make William sound better, right? Ask yourself also, why did William issue a press release with only his monograph, right? Sans Kate's monograph, right? He did it as a single person and only put I statements. I think at that point he thought he was going to have her die in a coma or something, and then he decided to go with another plan. So he was starting to prepare like she was gone. Then ask yourself again, why haven't we seen the children? So where this is going is, you don't realize how big this is, guys. The BBC Studios is saying that they recorded that video of Kate, right? Now, they probably just got it from the palace and then put like some brief edits on it, right? And then said that they had recorded it, right? Because the palace wanted them to say that. And then later on, they'll say, oh, we meant like produced, not recorded, right? And they'll be like, you people, you're so stupid. You don't understand. We just used the wrong word, right? So they'll just like gaslight the whole like, utopian aspect of all this. Like you're in like, I don't know, a Ray Bradbury novel or some shit, right? But the bigger story happening right now is, why is the media in cahoots, right? Like for them to cover for the palace on this level, that is huge. That means they're going to face so much more scrutiny. It's spreading. That's my point. This is not just about Kate. It's about all these institutions and how people are covering for one another. The end, guys. I'll just stop sharing right there. Here we go. I don't know. I know I should be like more optimistic or something, but like, even though I know it's gonna work out all right and that I believe this like revolution is happening, like good things, right? Good things are happening that will come out of this like chaos and misinformation and trickery and optical illusion and people being pitted against one another, and just the way people are mean to each other. And then I see the censorship and it just like gets me down and stuff. But you just got to keep your head up because it's like wild times, right? And I've said before, if you're like a psychic, witch, that kind of person, intuition, you're feeling so much collective anger right now, right? Because these people all collectively are getting gaslit and they're feeling angry about it because the press is treating them like they're stupid. The palace is treating them like they're stupid. And they know they're not stupid, but what do you do when people are saying you're stupid and treating you like you're stupid and trying to trick you? Like, you have to fight back, right? So I think that's what we're going to do now. Like, this is us. We're fighting back. Till next time.